Jon Stewart in this video is being told that the United States has allocated $42 billion for broadband access to rural people. And so far, after about 4 years, there have been 0 people connected. Let's talk about it. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about the $42 billion plan by the federal government to expand broadband access to rural users that has so far connected 0 households. Now, I have so many questions. I'm sure Jon Stewart has so many questions, but what I would ask is, what's taking so long? It's been years. You got the money, so what's the holdup? Do we have an example of bureaucracy and red tape? Is this what Doge is talking about? This kind of fraud, waste, and abuse? If it is that, and if it's not fraud, waste, and abuse, then what is it? What's the problem? I think it's bureaucracy, red tape, lofty goals by an administration, throwing money at it, but with no real plan to make it happen. And here is another example of that same thing. This is an article from 2023. Congress provided $7.5 billion for electric vehicle chargers, built so far 0. Now, again, this is 2023. You can see right there. So this is about 16 months ago. The updated number, as far as I know, maybe they've built 10. But the goal that the Biden administration had was 50,000, 50,000 chargers by 2030. So let's be generous and say that they built 1,000, which they didn't. They built about 10. But let's be generous and say they built 1,000 in a 4-year period from 2021 when Biden came in office and right now 2025. That's going to be maybe you could build another 1,000 maybe by the time 2030 comes. You're not going to get to 50,000. You're going to be about 48,000 short. So these plans and the monies that are sent out there, if they're not going to meet the goal, then what is the money actually doing? I would think the number is created because you think it would be that amount of money to make 50,000 charging stations. But if you only pump out 2,000 at best, probably more like 200, then where'd the money go? Now let's keep on going here. This is an article about what we're going to talk about today in the other video, the $42 billion internet program that has connected 0 people. Okay, so look. Let me just read right here, this first little piece, so we're on the same page. In 2021, the Biden administration passed the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which included a provision to give $42.5 billion to the Broadband Equity, Access, and Deployment BEAD program to provide user-served and rural areas with internet access. To date, it has connected nobody. The plan required U.S. states and territories to submit plans for investment and deployment by the end of 2023, which all have done. And that right there is important because some are going to say, well, look, ABL, the money is allocated. The states can get it. They could do something with it. Okay, the states apparently are doing their part. All states participated. They did what was asked of them. So what's going on? What's the update? Expected rollout won't occur until 2026 by most optimistic deadlines. Better than nothing, right? Maybe not. There's more to that, but you can see what's going on. If it's already been 4 years and there's been no movement, how are we going to have movement in under 2 years? It doesn't make any sense. We're already almost April 2025. They're talking about 26 at the earliest. I doubt it. Same thing as the 50,000 charging stations by 2030. I doubt it. Maybe you're going to get 200. Now, let's look at what Jon Stewart is talking about. He has a worried face. And I think this video is a great ad for Doge because stuff like this, people can make arguments about why it's happening, but I think it's happening because you get a bunch of bureaucracy and red tape. Point A is the money being allocated to make a thing happen, and point B is the thing actually happening. In between point A and point B, it's a bunch of different steps that are probably not needed, but they exist because they create jobs. These steps have been monetized for a select few people, and those be the individuals out there protest talking about, hey, don't take our jobs. Elon's an oligarch, because they don't want to lose their jobs. That's the bottom line. and they're just repeating whatever they've been told by the mainstream media or a consultant or an NGO to say to fight for their job. That's it.
We have to issue the notice of funding opportunity within 180 days. That's step one. Step two, which all 56 state applicants completed, is states who want to participate must submit a letter of intent after they...
Now, 56 applicants, maybe they're talking about territories, Guam and places like that could be included.
Do that. They can submit a request for up to $5 million in planning grants. Then the NTIA, step 4, has to review and approve and award, again, planning grants, not broadband grants, planning grants.
And it's still at the NTIA. It's still at the first step.
All right. So the NTIA must issue a NOFO within 180 days. States who want to participate must submit their letter of intent. Step 3, they can request up to $5 million in planning grants.
Just planning.
Just planning. Step 4, the requests are reviewed, approved, and awarded by the NTIA, which currently all 56, 3 years later, all 56 applicants had passed through at least step 5. It took.
Now, we're talking about the process to get broadband to people in rural areas. This is just we're just beginning.
At least it took more than 3 years. So it's a long time. States must submit a 5-year.
Now, let's go back a little bit. You may have missed a little detail about the 3 years. Let's go back a little bit.
3 years later, all 56 applicants had passed through at least step 5. It took more than 3 years. So it's a long time. States must submit a 5-year action plan. So the states kind of go back and they kind of think about how they're going to do this. And they don't just say, okay, thank you for the money. We're going to spend it. And you can see how it worked out later. We're like, here's our 5-year action plan. Then
my question is, what is so complicated about it? Because as far as I know, all you got to do is just get lines to houses. It's like running water or power. Just get a line to a house. Some parts of the country don't have running water going to every house because it's too far out. And if you want to get running water to that house, all you got to do is just run a line from point A to point B. So your solution is run it from far away, the nearest town or city, or build another water tower or something close by, and then run a line from that water tower. It's not that difficult. I don't understand what takes so many years to make this happen.
And the FCC must publish the broadband data maps before NTIA allocates funds. So having done the NOFO, the letters of intent, the request for planning grants, then the review, approval, and awarding of the planning grants, then the 5-year action plans. In between that, the federal government has to put forward a map saying where it thinks we need rural broadband subsidies. And then, of course, the states need an opportunity to challenge the map for accuracy. And you can imagine this doesn't all happen in like a day. Okay. So then the NTIA stuff.
Now, my question is, could you have private businesses that could do this a lot better and a lot quicker and a lot more efficiently? I think so. I believe so. I mean, let's talk about Starlink for a moment, because that's the elephant in the room, my humble opinion. How much will it cost to give rural residents the equipment for free that they can use to pay for Starlink if they desire? Because not everyone will want it. You can expand it to them, but they may not necessarily need it. So just give it to them and say, okay, if you want this, it'll be X amount of money. That's it, because they got to pay for it. Like if they're getting broadband to their house, it won't be free. It'll just be available. Some parts of the country is so far out, they don't have broadband. West Virginia, I know where I'm from originally. Some of them hollers do not have internet at all. Maybe you might get a cell phone signal, but probably not. So all you got to do is just build something right there for them to be able to get it, or give them a thing that can hit up to a satellite like Starlink.
Step 7 has to use the FCC maps to make allocation decisions. Then, having already done their letter of intent, their request for planning grants, it's hard even to talk about this, man. Step 7 is NTIA must use the FCC maps that were already challenged for allocation decisions. Then, having submitted all this, I think this one is actually quite amazing.
Yeah.
Having submitted their 5-year plans or letters of intent, step 8 is states must submit an initial proposal. An initial proposal.
Initial? We at step number 8. Initial, this should be their final proposal. What are we talking about?
To the NTIA. Then
Is that the result of their $5 million planning fund? This
I
initial
assume,
proposal?
but then what was the 5-year plan?
And what the did they apply for? What was their NOFO?
Like, if the 5-year action plan isn't the initial proposal, then what's the 5-year action
Forget
plan?
NOFO.
Okay.
MOFO.
Step 9, NTIA must review and approve each state's, again, initial proposal. By my read, we have had at least 2 initial proposals here, but that's a different issue.
Oh my God.
Step 10, states must publish their own map and allow internal challenges to their own map. So the government has published a map. They have invited the states to challenge the map. Then states have submitted initial proposals, and they then have to publish their own map and allow challenges.
Wait, who's challenging it within the state?
Well, organized interest groups, environmental group, like I don't know who specifically, but literally anybody. This is,
right.
I want to say something because it's very important I say this. This is the Biden administration's process for its own bill. They wanted this to happen. This is how liberal government works now.
This is something they instituted for this bill.
For their bill. This is a bill passed by Democrats with a regulatory structure written by Democratic administration. Okay.
Right.
Step 11. The NTIA must review and improve the challenge results and the final map. So the NTIA has put forward a map. The states have challenged that map. Then the states have put forward their maps, had other challenges. And now the NTIA must review and approve the challenges to the state maps.
Okay, there's more. There's more. Really, there's more, but y'all get the idea of how complicated all this stuff is. Now, look, as I close, I want to say this. I understand the need I understand the need to be thorough and to be precise with infrastructure. I get it. But at a certain point, it's like, all right, I think what's happening is just red tape bureaucracy. This is like USSR type stuff. The minister of this, the minister of that, the this, the that, all these different steps you're going through is just unnecessary. It takes time and it takes a lot of money. And who really benefits from that? Ultimately, the rural residents still don't have their internet, but all these planning people and early stage and presentation and map makers, they all got their money. They all got their slice. Like I always say, Mark Zuckerberg gave $100 million to Newark public schools. And there was an article published on Salon.com. You can read it right now. There's an article published on Salon.com that says, everyone got paid, but Raheem still can't read. That's the same exact thing that's going on right here. And I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? What's your opinion about the process to get broadband to rural people? Is it complicated unnecessarily? Red tape, bureaucracy, taking years, nothing has happened, although billions have been allocated? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. This is really crazy, but no surprise. It's a pattern. Same thing with the EV chargers. There's all kind of expenses that don't make any sense, outdated processes, because the government doesn't really care about being efficient. They have no incentive to be efficient because they're not in the business of making, or they're not trying to do things to make profit, because they're going to get paid regardless from your taxpayer money, from my taxpayer money. All they really care about is lining their pockets at a certain point by creating agencies and bureaus and this, that, and the third. That's why they don't like Elon so much, because he threatens that way of life for them. It's crazy, but whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.